Welcome to the Goddesses of Social Work podcast. I'm your host, Renita Ray Davis, and I'm here today with LaTonya B. Merritt, MSW. LaTonya B. Merritt, MSW. I is smart, I is kind, and I is beautiful, as quoted from the movie The Help. LaTonya received her master's degree in social work in 2018 from Troy University's Phoenix City campus. LaTonya works at Kenneth B. Walker Residential Home for Boys as the Independent Living Coordinator. LaTonya works with and advocates for services and resources for adolescent males that have experienced abuse and or neglect. LaTonya is a member of the sorority Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated. And social work is more than just a job for LaTonya. It has always been in her heart to help others in society that others consider to be abnormal, unwanted, uneducated, delinquent, and or bad. LaTonya also volunteers and advocates for mental health awareness and brain health at the Alzheimer's Association in Columbus, Georgia. Every year, LaTonya goes to the state capitol to advocate for Alzheimer's research. LaTonya believes that when you find your purpose, you find your passion. Welcome to the podcast, LaTonya.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me today.
I'm glad that you said yes. I really am super excited. LaTonya, it's been years since I've seen you, and I never have asked you this question. And so I'm excited to hear the answer. But what did you want to be when you were growing up, or who did you want to be most like when you were growing up?
I want to be most like my mom. My mom and a couple different family members that I learned different things from. Um, and I've changed my mind from being like a computer programmer to just different majors, different things that I can major in. I thought about the medical field at one point in time, but it always came back to something dealing with advocacy. So I think I've kind of found my niche now, but what I have learned is it's okay if you start out doing one thing
Mhm.
and it changes because life is about change and life is about being flexible.
Absolutely. I wonder if you would share a little bit about what was it about your mom that you want to be most like her?
My mother, her perseverance,
Mhm.
her determination to make it. She had to grow up at a young age. She lost her mom, so by her being the oldest child, she had to take on that parental role. Um, Persevered through abusive marriage, but always showed up for her children. And no matter what obstacles that she was met with, she was determined that she was going to be a provider for her children and she was going to be a great mother to not allow us to fall into traps of uh, danger, whether that be uh, stumbling blocks with the law or a lack of education. She just always was just determined that we were going to make it and she was going to make it. So I love that perseverance about my mom and her faith is another thing that allowed her to persevere. And she taught me about Christ at a young age. So my mother, undoubtedly, I looked up to her,
Yeah, she sounds like a beautiful woman.
and she is.
What's her name?
Doris Merritt Williams, and
Mm.
she's also known by a nickname Polly.
How did she get that nickname?
I don't know to this day. I'm gonna find out though.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
yes,
I was
Polly.
That's how she's known as Polly.
Yeah,
It
yes,
it almost sounds like sunshine. Like she was a ray of sunshine. Yeah, she is a ray of sunshine. I was I'm super excited for two reasons to have you on the podcast today. One of the things we do here on the Guys of Social Work podcast is we talk about our social work journeys. I think that it's important to tell our stories, how we got here, where do we want to go with this, so that our audience members know that there's so many different paths to get to social work and they're all unique and there's so many different things we can do once we're in social work. So I'm curious, what was your, and you can start from the beginning. Like I heard you say at one point you wanted to be a computer programmer or analyst. That is completely different from what we do in social work. So you can start even way back then if you want to. But what is your social work journey, LaTonya?
My social work journey is made up of a plethora of things, from wanting to be a great advocate, whether it's for as it's two for two populations, uh, children and elderly population. Um, and the reason being is because they're vulnerable. Children don't ask to be born, nor do they get to pick their parents. And so I'm just seeing so much and having to have experienced firsthand what children go through. I just want to make it a better world or teach the children how they can persevere and that their past doesn't have to dictate their future. You know, this is the hand that they were dealt, but they don't have to stay, in that moment. There is hope. So providing them the resources and the tools so that they can have a fighting chance. And as well as our elderly population, we're all going to get older
Mm-hmm.
if we continue to live. So making sure that there are laws in place to protect our elderly population. They're not always treated as they should be, and just because you're getting older, or you might have a some type of mental impairment, you're still a human being at the end of the day, and you have the right to have the best quality of life possible.
I totally agree. And I love your heart for advocacy. But how did you find out about social work?
So this is how my social work journey began. I had a brief military career at one point, and I always wanted to go in the military. My brother was in the military. It was a strong foundation. I knew you can retire, and it could just change your world in a lot of great ways. So I went into the military, and like I said, I had a brief. It was very brief. Every time I tried to go back, something always came up. I said, okay, God, don't know what's going on here. So the very last time I was going to go back, I want to go to the medical corps. So just doing my research, the military, the Army in particular, had a MOS for social work. So, okay. So I'm going to go back to school and get a social work degree. And of course, you had to be licensed to do so. So that's what sparked it. And at that time, Troy and Phoenix City did not have the program, but the one in Dothan did. And so I called, reached out to the admissions office in Dothan, and I was almost about to enroll into the counselor program because they did not know when they was going to get the program actually at the campus in Phoenix City. She said they were going to try to live stream it, but they didn't know when they was actually going to get it there physically. So the lady in the admin office was like, "Well, you might want to wait and do that. Just hold off because you will get a twofold opportunity if you become a social worker, because a social worker can be a counselor as well as a social worker." She said, "I'm not trying to discourage you if you do want to be a counselor, though, but you will only have the opportunity to just be a counselor." So I waited patiently, and here I am today. And I was initially going to do just get my bachelor's in social work. My mom taught me at a young age, taught her children at a young age that the key to success is applied knowledge. And she knew that having a strong educational background, it would help us. It would help pave the way to and open a lot of doors to things that we needed in our future. I know I'm kind of skipping all over the place here,
You're good. You're
um,
good.
but I started school at the age of 3 to make sure that I
Wow.
went to school. And she didn't want me to be a burden on my older siblings because they were older than I was. So during the summertime, I would go to school year round. So I started at the age of 3. So I always knew that whatever I felt that I was missing, I would find it. Uh, that connection would be in the form of education. So, like I
Mhm.
said, I toying with. I said, okay, let me try this because I want to go back to the military. And for whatever reason, God didn't see fit for me to go back, but I still pursued uh, my career as a social worker. And the I knew that by doing that, I would have the twofold of being the counselor
Mhm.
as well as the social worker. So that's that started it, and hence, therefore, that's where I am now.
Yes,
If
and
that
we're
makes any
it
sense
makes
to you.
perfect sense, and we're
Okay.
so glad that someone with such a big heart for advocacy ended up in the social work field. I'm going to thank you for the social work profession that you ended up with us. But I also want to thank you. And I know it was brief, but I still want to thank you for your military service because my dad was in the military for 21 years, and I know it's a big sacrifice to even say yes to begin with, and then your perseverance, as you said, with your mother, to want to go back, and then that leads you into the social work profession. So I want to say thank you for that. I
Thank you.
think it is so interesting that you were going to be willing because you live in Georgia, but you meant it. One, I didn't know there was an MOS in the Army, in particular, probably all the military branches for social work. So that at my 26 years is something new. I knew that there were social workers in the military or military installations, but I didn't realize there was an MOS for social work. Um, but I also am thinking you were going to drive from Georgia to Dothan, Alabama. That is how tunnel vision you meant. You want to speak to that?
Well, once again, my mom has taught me
Hmm.
stuff is not gonna come to you. So sometimes you have to go
Wow.
to where it's at. So if there's
Hmm.
a need for it, if you want it bad enough, you go find it.
Yeah, I love that. And then I also am loving that the admin person at Troy was like, you're going to get a 2 for 1. You
Yes.
don't, usually because we try not to, we want you just to get butts and seats in the university setting. Oh, you're interested in counseling? Come on in. We're going to do that. But she was like, no, you might want to wait a second. I think that is divine as well because usually they're just like, come on in, whatever degree, and you can figure it out later.
Yes. Yes. And I was thankful for her breaking that down to me, like in that perspective, because I didn't know. So
Mhm,
that was the
mhm.
determining factor. I said, I just waited out. And lo and behold, the program came to fruition.
It sure did. It sure did. And we're glad that you joined us. Latanya, what has been your experience since 2018 as a social worker? What do you feel has been like your top experiences since you joined the profession?
That there's a need for social workers
Mhm,
everywhere, in
mhm.
every aspect of this world, in every corner, in every crevice. There's a need for advocacy. There's someone in need. It's so broad to I go back to how people used to view social workers back in the day as they're these people who come in and snatch children up out of the house and just disrupting the flow of things. And that's so far from the truth. Um, there's just a need. And I have a degree to where I have the flexibility. I mean, I can be a social worker in so many aspects in the world of education, uh, policy, just helping to make a difference in the world. You name it. The the healthcare field, military, uh, education system. It, we're everywhere.
Yeah, we are Capitol Hill. And in fact, the fact that you say you go to the Capitol every year, so there's other social workers I know that also join you as well. So we are absolutely everywhere making a difference from the macro level to the micro level. So
Yes, indeed.
um one of the thank you for sharing your journey. And I wanna move because the second reason that I was excited about having you on the podcast was to talk about this. So you are going to be one of our guest speakers for the event that we're having on May 30th at the Rosa Parks Museum Auditorium from 9 to 2 on the screening of the documentary My Mama Joe. But before we do the screening, we're going to have social work professionals like yourself come and talk to our audience about people who love someone living with Alzheimer's. I know we've been talking about your mama for a minute, and this might even be the first time you publicly have talked about your journey with loving someone living with Alzheimer's. But you're going to do that for us in full detail on the 30th. But would you give us a little snippet for our audience of what it means to love someone living with Alzheimer's?
It means being patient.
Mm,
It means being kind. It means allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Um, and it can change your world and it can rock your world at the same time. Um, just to give a little snippet. My mom, strong, a strong force. I don't ever really uh, can recall my mom really relying on too many people. She's
mhm,
that type of person of, I'm going to get it done. And to see someone be so independent and to change and having to rely on someone, it can rock the world and change the very essence of life as you know it. But uh, I get to care for her now eh, just as she cared for me.
mm.
It could have been so many times the things that she had to deal with in life, she could have chosen or made the choice to give up on me and my siblings, but she didn't. And I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to give her the same opportunities that she gave me. So um, there's a need to continue to push for advocacy, for laws to change, to bring about awareness because it might not be you today, but it very well could be you tomorrow or you next year. So people really need to understand because Alzheimer's, and I had to learn how to
Mm,
properly pronounce that word
mhm,
uh, by my mentor, Mr. David Marlowe. Uh,
mm.
took me under his wing during the time he was at the Alzheimer's Association. It's not a normal part of aging. A lot of people think that
Yeah,
it's not. Your brain is literally changing. So we do need to make sure that we're properly educating people and bring about awareness about this disease.
absolutely. I love that you brought up David Marlowe and his time at the house. He's done some amazing work. I'm curious, and I love that you said that you even had to. And thank you for saying that because a lot of people call. We're just going to put it out there. A lot of people call Alzheimer's Alzheimer's, or and so to get that first knowledge from such an icon in the field of just even how to say it correctly. I'm curious, before your mother got diagnosed, I think I have two questions about this. One, had you heard about Alzheimer's? Did you know what it was? And then second, I know your family is from a rural uh, town in Alabama. Was it easy or difficult getting the diagnosis? Did your family know what was happening with your mama?
In an essence, I didn't live with my mom at that time, but my brother lived next door, and my aunt noticed some changes as well. And my brother, who visited mom from time to time, but would come in and stay from time to time, noticed some changes as well. So there was some subtle changes there, and then that led us up to having to go to the doctor. And it was some ugly things that, this disease can uh it can really shake some things up to the core with your family if you're not prepared. I don't know how you can be prepared uh for um this life changing event or situation, but uh it can really present some challenges, and if you can't be prepared enough for it. I did go through challenges with my siblings. Um, we were not always on the same accord, so it does cause for risks. If I'm just going to be honest about it, because
Mm-hmm.
I do want people to know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It can cause separation, and if you're not strong enough or knowledgeable enough, um, it can tear some families apart. But I'm thankful to God, because I know that prayer does work, and it
Mm-hmm.
does make a difference. And so some of those challenges that I had with my siblings, things are getting better. Because I grew up during a time that my siblings didn't grow up. So I had experiences with mom that they didn't. They grew up at a different time than I did. So everybody has their different perspectives and their own different way of dealing with things. So I respect that. Some of that I might not have known then. All I see is this person who I love is changing before my eyes. All I know is this person that made so many sacrifices for our family, you know, is changing right before our eyes. So what are we gonna do about it? And then when I have five other siblings.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to get everybody on one accord, you have different personalities and different perspectives. So you have to take all that stuff into consideration when you're trying to come up with the best treatment plan, uh, for lack of better terms, for what our mother future looks like now.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take a lot of sacrifice. It's going to take a lot of dedication. But those are the same things that she did for us. So we had our challenge. So, like I said, I would be remiss if I didn't say that, but I'm thankful and grateful for my siblings.
Yeah, of
And
course.
I'm thankful and grateful for the foundation that my mom laid for us to not fuss, to not fight. That was not allowed in our household. She would tell us, I had to be the mom and the dad here, so there's no fussing and fighting in this household. We're gonna kiss and make up,
Mm.
we doing things of that nature. So, but everybody was affected by this in their own way. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Mm-hmm. One of the reasons it was so important to me to bring this event to Alabama specifically was when I watched the film for the first time and talked to Dr. Caldwell, who's the film's producer. You talked a lot about not having information, resource, or support. And when I think of information, resources, and support, I think about social workers. That's what we do, right? And
Yes.
I'm curious, did you have any experiences with social work, or even since you are one whose family has loved someone living with Alzheimer's, um, and you're a social worker, how do you see the role of social work with this particular population?
There's a need,
Mhm,
um, because you don't some people don't know what this disease is all about and the trauma that comes with it, but getting the right help and the right resources can help the path to be a whole lot smoother. One of the things that I've learned throughout my uh, throughout my journey with working with the Alzheimer's Association, a lot of African Americans don't
mhm.
participate in the clinical trials with the study. So there's a lack of information that we're not getting from that perspective as well to help our particular population. So I just see social work, the role of that social work would play, well, does play and bring about awareness when it comes down to Alzheimer's is the advocacy, the letting people know that there is help there, the resources and the tools that are needed, like I said, to make this journey a lot smoother, not just for the person who's being diagnosed, but for the caregiver as well, because you take on this journey and just knowing what's out there because a lot of people don't know that there's respite uh, assistance for the caregiver. People can come in and give you a timeout uh, to maybe run errands and do the things that you need to do to make sure that your mental health
Mhm,
stays intact as well.
mhm.
So, and going to the Capitol to tell your story, sharing it with the leaders so that they know um, that there is a need to, hey, let's make sure that we have the funds to do the research because this is changing. This is changing on a daily basis. 5 years ago, it's not the same as it was today. So it's constantly changing.
Absolutely. As you're talking, you're answering questions that I'm having. Like, I know that I don't know if it was your first, but I was aware that you did your internship at the Alzheimer's Association. I'm not sure if that was your first interaction with the Alzheimer's Association, but that was almost, oh, go ahead, what?
So my first encounter,
Mm-hmm.
my mom came to stay with me briefly through my family trying to sort out
Mm-hmm.
what was going to be the best course of action to take place. Like I said, keep in mind, there were some challenges. There were some
Mm-hmm.
major challenges in place throughout this journey. So while my mom was here, I was able to uh, get resources from the Alzheimer's Association. Um, and doing before those services were in place, my mom went to a senior center for while I was at work, and the bus driver had specific instructions. And when you come back, make sure you get with the caregiver that's upstairs. She's not from here. She's not familiar. You cannot let her out your sight. He did not follow those instructions. I got a call from work telling me that my mom had showed up. She was missing. And my church formed a search party for my mom. I left work frantic, uh, but we had formed a search party for my mom. I knew a friend of mine who connected me to someone at the radio station. They allowed me to come on the radio station and give out information about my mom. But I say all this to say it led up to the resources that I needed from the Alzheimer's Association. The
Mhm.
stuff that I was working on in the midst of my mom coming to stay with me, that stuff hadn't been put in place yet. Um, so during that course, I was able to get some resources that I needed for my mother through the Alzheimer's Association. But like I said, those resources hadn't been put in place because certain things take time to be put in place. But it's very important. I'm saying you have to have things lined up because the person don't know, and
Mhm.
consistency and structure are two of the main important things that you have to have in place when you're dealing with someone with Alzheimer's because they have a tendency to wonder,
Mhm.
um, to ask the same questions. And when you put them in a new environment, that confuses the situation even more so because they're not familiar with it. And like I said, I know I hopped around a little
No,
bit
you did good.
with that, but just to show the importance of reaching out and getting involved and volunteering at the Alzheimer's Association. Like I said, when I knew my mom was going to come up, I knew that I needed those resources in place for her because I still had to work. I still had a life. I still had to do things that I needed to do to be able to help provide for her as well, even though she had her own source of income. It was certain things that I needed to do in addition to help her. So yeah, that was a part of that. And I also was able to, while working at the Alzheimer's Association, I had the opportunity to educate police officers
Wow.
about Alzheimer's awareness. So I got an opportunity to go to their training while they training the police officers to go to get their certification. I was able to educate police officers about the signs and the symptoms of Alzheimer's and how important their presence in the community plays a role in helping to find individuals who wander.
That is huge. I don't even
Yes.
think I knew that. That is a big one. And that was in Columbus, Georgia?
Yes, and I was able to get that opportunity working with Mr. Marlowe
Mm.
as a part of bringing about awareness.
Hmm.
Yes.
And so you knew about the Alzheimer's Association before you actually did your internship. And almost 10 years later, you are still volunteering with
I'm
them.
still volunteering. I'm still showing up at the Capitol, still advocating for people to go to Dancing Stars, where they raise
Hmm.
a lot of money for research and other resources that are needed to bring about awareness. So I also, the children who I work with, we also participate in the walk every year here in Columbus, Georgia. So yes,
That's
and
awesome. And
I'm gonna
so,
continue to do it
yes,
till
yeah.
we find that cure. Now we
Hmm.
made some progress. There's supposed to be some new medications that are on the market, but we still have a lot of work to do. So I encourage people to get involved, whether it's making a donation, whether it's getting involved in the walk, the clinical research. It's something that we can do.
Absolutely. And I even want to encourage social work students who may be listening, who are looking for an internship. 10 years later, you're still very much a part of the Alzheimer's Association, and this could be a great internship. But if you're not a student, our social work code of ethics, if it's a social worker listening right now, our social work code of ethics say that we are supposed to be volunteering. So the Alzheimer's Association is a great place for you to volunteer as well. And I talked to someone, my previous podcast, the one right before this one. She said, once they get you, they don't let you go. You agree?
I agree. I agree. And I will be
Yes.
forever connected to the Alzheimer's Association. It was a no-brainer for me where I was going to do my internship at. It was just a no-brainer.
Mm,
Um, and I'm so very thankful and grateful for all the help that I received from that organization. So very grateful.
that's beautiful. LaTonya, thank you so much for sharing your a little bit about your journey with your mother, who laid such an amazing foundation for you and for the work that you are continuing to do. I was really excited about having you on for you to share that. And I cannot wait for us to get a fuller picture of this and see you in person on May 30th at the Rosa Parks Museum auditorium from 9 to 2 for our event.
Greatly looking forward to it.
Yay. I'm gonna shift our questions back to your social work journey a little bit. And I always love asking this question, especially for someone who's been in the field for a long time like you have. What is one belief about social work that you started on this journey with that you feel has changed the most?
I didn't know what aspect, what part of social work I was going to focus on the
Mm,
most. I know I wanted to continue working with the populations that I mentioned prior, but it's leaning more towards advocacy and policy and procedure,
mhm,
a change in policy, uh, whether that's with children, whether that's with our elderly population, or wherever it's needed. It's definitely shifting in that direction more so versus me uh, probably just having an LLC. It's definitely going to be in something dealing with policy.
mhm. I think when people come into social work, sometimes they often think it's just they focus on the micro, the one-on-one with our clients, and making a difference with that one life. But and then you started focusing on the mezzo. You do a lot in the community, both with the adolescent males you work with and with like you going to the Capitol and all of that. You do a lot. The Dancing with the Stars event that you put on, which was amazing a few years back. Um, you do a lot with the community, which is the mezzo. And now to see you progressing to macro, to like I'm always at the state capitol. I know that we got to change the policy. And, social workers sometimes don't realize that the macro is where it's at. The macro
Yes,
social work.
it sets the tone for everything. If you want to see change, that's where it's at. I mean, it's important that we gain knowledge to know where we're going,
Mhm.
but it's always going to go back to for as far as my perspective to the policies that are guiding things. If you want to see the change, that's what you got. That's what it's all about.
That's where it's at. I taught policy was my favorite class to teach, and it would be the first class in the 2-year program. And people were like, "I just want to get to the good stuff," and I'd be like, "This is the good stuff," because it's absolutely what you're saying. When you're doing the micro work, you're doing it based on the policy that's been created, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so the policy, like you said, I love how you said that. It sets the tone for the work we're doing on the micro and the meso levels. So I'm excited to see what you end up doing on a macro level. You're already doing it, but like fully put both feet into that macro level is going to be great for you.
I'm
Let's
just
time.
asking God for the guidance and
Yeah.
wherever He sees fit for me to be. So I'm
You gave
trusting.
us an amazing prayer. If you're praying like that over yourself, you gave us an amazing prayer before we hit record. And so if you're praying over yourself like that, you're absolutely going to get the guidance. And I'm excited to
Thank
be
you.
able to be a witness to that and to say, I knew you win. I knew you win.
And you played a role in this as well.
Yeah.
by professor. So I have to give credit where it's due as well.
I always tell because I love y'all are doing such great things. It's always so important to me that you guys go way beyond anything I could have ever dreamt for myself, and to be able to see you guys doing that, it's just please just always shout me out like, hey, Renita. And I'm gonna be like, I knew it. I knew you were gonna do great things. And LaTonya, I've always known you were gonna do great things. You're doing great things now. And I'm really honored to be able to witness that. I um I have a final question, and I'm just kind of the word abundance is coming to mind right now, and so I'm curious. You talking to us about we need this for the young people, and we need this for our elderly population, but where do you see the abundance within our social work profession?
Hmm.
Did I get you with that one?
Yeah. I just say everywhere,
Mm,
everywhere.
yeah. Like you said, we're everywhere too, right?
It's everywhere.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Do you have any? Thank you for coming on the Social Work Goddesses of Social Work podcast. I'm so thrilled that you said yes. I'm so thrilled that you're going to be one of our guest speakers on the 30th. And I'm curious, do you have any final words for our audience that you want to leave them with?
Be the change
Mm,
that you want to see. Don't be afraid. Uh, Step outside the box. Don't allow people to put limits on you, and just take that chance. Sometimes things are easier said than done. But I always pray that God doesn't allow me to leave this world with dreams on the inside of me.
mm,
So dare to dream and don't worry about what people say. You know, you are who you are for a reason. So God created us with all different talents for a reason.
mhm.
So dare to be great.
That's it. I love that. That was wonderful. You're going to be on that big stage. You are going to be on that big stage, and I cannot wait to see it. LaTonya Merritt, thank you so much for coming on the Goddess of Social Work podcast. It was such a joy having you.
And thank you for the opportunity.